So the Nearpod code, W6KNQ. So if you can jump in there, and the code as per normal would be up there in the top left-hand corner. All right, W6KNQ. All right. Right. I'm going to move on from there. All right, team. Now, let's wait for this to arrive, and it's going to ask you a particular question, I hope. There it is. Nope. It's going to talk to you about absolute advantage, just to remind ourselves again, right, that we had this concept of absolute advantage where we talked about one country being able to produce absolutely more than another country. Right? They are more efficient in the fact that they have lower costs, lower average costs than the other country, right, for the production of a good. It might be bananas, or it might be cars, or it could be any good. You know? The problem comes when that one country is able to produce absolutely more of everything. Then why should they trade? So that is when you end up with the next one, which should appear. Hold on, let me go back on. Which is the idea of comparative advantage. And comparative advantage, as we learnt, wasn't about the absoluteness of their production process, their average costs. It was about their opportunity costs. What were they comparatively better at producing? All right? That's what comparative advantage was all about. It wasn't what they were absolutely best at producing. It was what they were comparatively better at producing. Now, as I said to you the other day or other week, whenever it was, there is some maths behind there, and it has to do with the calculation of the opportunity costs. In your syllabus, you don't have to do the calculation. It is there in the background, and if that is of interest to you, we can look that up and discuss that. But in general, for you, it is enough to know that absolute is about efficiency with regards to production, and comparativeness, comparative advantage, is about the lower opportunity cost. All right. Here's a wee fill in the gaps exercise. All right. So you're filling in the gaps, just putting the words into the sentences where you feel they best fit. And go. Alright, got about 30 odd seconds to work your way through this. Now, in the not too distant future, you're hopefully all going to be coming back, right, into the environment with SOPs and sitting at desks again and having to get up and move around different classrooms and negotiating where you'll sit for lunch and all of those sorts of exciting things. So please be aware that there will be a lot of emails that will go to mum and dad, things that you'll need to figure out, things that mum and dad will need to figure out, but also things that the school is trying to work out, again, with regards to SOPs, who's vaccinated, who's not, all of those sorts of things with regards to the students and whether they can just take them all off. But that will be coming. All right. So how did you get on with that? Hopefully not too bad. Essentially, this is all you needed to do. You needed to say that comparative advantage occurs when a region or a country can produce a good or a service with a lesser opportunity cost, a smaller opportunity cost than other countries, right? Remember opportunity cost, the next best alternative foregone, given up, when an economic decision is made. So it's about those ratios of production between producing one product and another. And if your opportunity costs are less than another country, then you have a relative advantage in the production of that particular product. Right. Now, let's have a look at this one. Hopefully this will work. Hopefully this works on your screen. Right, let me know if this doesn't work on your screens. It should work. If I push play, it should work on yours. If there are problems with that, let me know in the chat, and we'll see what else we can do. It's thinking. I think it's because it's trying to broadcast it to you all. Again, I think that's the problem. When you're all back, it will be a lot easier. Right, so if I move us forward. Right. Okay, so an extra point to note is this one, and it says that comparative advantages can and do change over time. And that's something we need to be aware of, is that a country, a region, they may have had a comparative advantage in the past, but because other countries all of a sudden have developed their production processes or some sort of technology, some sort of new production method that they've worked on, that comparative advantage might disappear or change to a different product. So perhaps protecting those, could be something that we could consider, protecting the information surrounding the product, production of that product, etc., might be something that we could consider. But in general, countries' comparative advantages do change over time. So therefore, what you're specialising in now, you may not want to specialise in the future, because all of a sudden a different country has got is more specialised in the production of that than you would. Right? It's not having a greater advantage than you do. We also need to understand that costs will change over time. In particular, the technological costs, right? Things that are impacted by technology, the capital goods, the production processes, anything that has a technology component, there might be new ways of doing things that changes over time. That then will have an impact again on our comparative advantage, because it impacts on our opportunity cost, right? The resources, we might discover new resources, there might be better education, more training, something along those sorts of lines, which might improve the quality of our factors of production, in which case, again, we might end up with a comparative advantage in the production of one good as opposed to another. A classic example is New Zealand, which I will know, right? When New Zealand had this, and does still, a massive comparative advantage in the production of cows and sheep and dairy products, etc. Now that's all very well and good, but then other countries started getting comparative advantages in the production of those products as well. So New Zealand started then to diversify its production, right? New unique markets, new unique products, but also started creating entire new industries where it didn't have them before. So as you might be aware, New Zealand actually has a movie industry, a movie creation industry. and a special effects industry. And those two combined actually generate quite a lot of income now for New Zealand. Also the tourism that comes from people used to visiting New Zealand to see the film sets and to visit the workshop where all of the animations and stuff are created, etc. People visit those places, and so that became an income for New Zealand. We gained a competitive advantage in the production of those movies and special effects and the like, and now they're used quite a lot overseas. So it changes. So what a country might be focused on and more specialised in 1 year might change the next year because their comparative advantages change. So we need to be aware of that and consider that we're not always going to just be doing this. Maybe something else. Now, it is important, as I've mentioned to you, that we consider what we call RLEs in economics, or in the teaching field, real life examples. So we need to find and make sure we know and we can discuss easily countries that trade goods and services, what they trade, how much they trade of it, the value of exports and imports. Can we identify those and say them? What country has an absolute advantage in what production? What country has a comparative advantage in what production? So trying to find those real life examples is quite important for two reasons. Well, three reasons. One, it helps with your understanding. Two, it helps the examiner see your understanding. And three, it's going to help in the sense that it might be that the examples you pick and you research and learn about also could potentially be the case studies in the actual exam, which all of a sudden, hey, that's brilliant. Yep. Right, now I'm going to work through something with you. I'll find it. This one. Right, so it's this one, and what I'm going to do is share this with you. He says, hopefully. I'm not going to do it that way. Do it that way. Alright, so this will arrive in the classroom very soon. I will post it in. This is a practice exam question or practice exam questions. Hopefully you will all have access to it. Now, where is it in here? This one. Just going to check that I've got the right setting on it. Right, so you should be able to edit this now. Right, so what I'm going to do is I will share my screen. I'll turn this one off. And I'll share my screen. Now this is a practice exam question, so it'd be good to practice these from time to time. So this is the one that I have picked for today. And it worked quite nicely because it has aspects of international trade in it, but it also has aspects of just general economic analysis in it. And so let's go through. All right, so I've shared this document with you. Now, a word of note. The other thing I've done is I've posted it into the classroom. All right, so it's in the classroom, so you will be able to work on it as an actual assessment as well, but that will happen later today. So first thing, you get these questions, jump in. All right. And the first thing that you have is the case study. So these are the short case study based questions in your extended response paper 2. So this case study talks about the price of gold rising in 2016.
Mr. David?
Yellow.
I think we got the document.
Sorry?
Yeah, I can't find it.
Can't find it?
We haven't got it.
Hold on a second. I may have posted it to the wrong room. Let me try again. Alright, let's try again. Sorry about that. Not sure which classroom I did post it to then. Alright, so it should be there now. Alright, so if you refresh your screen, or it should just have appeared. Have you got it now? Yeah? Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. I wonder if I posted it into there. Into there. Right. Last one did I post it? Posted into the year 13, so they don't need to know that one. Alright, okay, so I will back to you, share the screen. So the exam paper comes with very short case study, no more than 4 or 5 lines. There could be some graphical data in there, but more than likely not. The reason being is because you've already had question 1, which is the full case study, the big sort of whole page length case study, and that usually there will be some data potentially with that one. So this one talks about the price of gold in 2016. Price of gold has risen. This has encouraged owners of gold mines to employ more resources. There's a key thing. All right, so I'm going to highlight key parts of it. To increase the supply of gold, level of competition in gold production varies in the different gold producing countries. A number of countries, including India, have imposed a tariff on imported gold. Right, so quite clearly it is about gold. So questions that you could be asked about how the price of gold works. Like in a marketplace, right, how is the price determined? It could be asked about the level of competition. That could be a question. You could be asked about the gold mine employing more resources. That could be a question. What are they meaning? The types of resources. There could be lots of different questions. So I would just go through and highlight key things that I thought would be possible, all right, for the actual question. I mean, in essence, you probably don't even need to actually read it that thoroughly to answer the questions, but in any case. Right, so first thing we do is we identify 2 factors of production involved in the mining of gold. Now it's an identify. Remember the exam command term, identify, means state, right, or means just say. So here's where bullet pointing is okay, all right, so long as it is involved in mining. Oops, come on, highlighter. Alright, so long as it is involved in mining gold. So what do you think we could put in there? What 2 factors? Come on. It's going to be 2 factors. Go. You'll need to use the mic because I can't see the chat. Well, I could probably see the chat if I move this thing out of the way.
Capital and labor?
Yes, so
Maybe.
Capital, for example, what?
Machinery.
Like what? What do you use to mine?
I forgot what's the thing called.
Labor?
The thing.
Yes,
thing
we'll
you
use
use to
labour,
dig.
we will. Sorry, what was the
Yeah,
capital?
the thing that you use to dig. I forgot what it's called.
Okay. Right. Maybe a pickaxe.
Yeah, that could be.
Right. Thinking Minecraft there. It's my son's game. Capital, e.g. Minecraft. And the other one you said was labour, e.g. what? Who might we have as labour? What's our example of labour in a mine?
Minor.
Miners, yes. Right, the people who work in the mine are classified as miners. It doesn't have anything to do with their age. It quite literally means they're in the mine digging for gold. All right, that's
Wait,
it.
Mr. David, could
Yeah.
land be part of it? I think maybe land.
Possible, like what? What would your example be?
Because, like, wouldn't, like, if you want to mine gold, there would be, like, a specific land.
Yes, like what?
Like
Land
land
is
of
just
gold,
the heading.
you know, or like a mountain or something that you dig the gold in.
Mountain where there are miners. Yes. You do, even though it's identifier, you're going to need to be, reasonably specific because it's asked for something specific. It's asked for it to be involved in mining gold. So long as you get something relatively close, you will get those 2 marks. Right? It's not a difficult question. You should all get those 2 marks. And even though if it's 2 marks, you're going to be spending, 3 minutes. You have time-wise to answer that question. You shouldn't need 3 minutes. All right? Maybe a minute, maybe a minute and a half should all that you need. Where it will cause you problems is if you then start sitting there reading the case study and, well, maybe I could think, no, maybe, what was the capital good? What could I use? Could I use this or could I? Oh, that might be a better. If you start debating it, that's going to take you the time. It's worth 2 marks. You need to just get the 2 marks down and move on. You can save time and then come back and check your work. All right. So the next one is worth 4 marks. And it is an explain question. So this is not identify, and we do not use bullet points. We do not state. We are explaining, and we're told how many reasons to explain. We need to be explaining 2 reasons why a government might impose, might, whatever the correct English is, impose a tariff on imported gold. That's all you have to do. But you do have to explain. So you're needing to know the reason why. Okay? Now, 2 reasons, 4 marks. What's the mark breakdown? What do you think? Where do you get the 4 marks?
2 marks on each.
Absolutely right. 2 marks per reason, which gives you that space, right, to understand that it's an explain, because then the 2 marks for 1 reason is a state and an explanation. If that helps. I don't know if that helps you. So what are we going to say? Well, 2 reasons. Why might a government put a tariff on? What's the reason behind protectionism? What are they thinking? Why are they wanting to protect the gold industry? Any reasons? Just give me some.
Protect local industries.
Yes.
Mining industry.
Good man. I'm glad that you said that. Protect local mining industry. Right? It would have been very easy to have just said, as you started to say, to protect local industry, right? But in this case, you're wanting to protect the local mining industry because that's what is specifically referred to in the case study. So you need to talk about that. Protect the local mining industry and those employed within it. So that could be your first one. And that's more or less about how many you need, how much you need for an explain. What would be your second reason? Why else would you want? Those 2. to. Right, now we remember you talked about tariffs and what they are, and one of the things that you said a tariff was, Connor, you said it was a, beginning with T?
Tax.
Tax. Why might a government want to put a tax on something?
To discourage the imports.
Yes. Any other reason?
And to, it's getting more money for the government so they could spend it on other...
Absolutely right. So we add that to gain more revenue for the government in order to be able to spend it on other areas, i.e. Infrastructure. You see how the explain comes into it, right? So if you were just doing identify, so if this was just identify two reasons, first thing you'd write is protect local industry. Second one you'd write is gain more revenue. That's it. But you're expanding your answer. You are explaining how the tariff or why the tariff is imposed. Other things you could have talked about, specific employment. You could have talked about the government and voting power. So they're worried that the loss of employment might cause people not to vote them back into power. It could be about the impact. They're worried about the impact of unemployment, right, and the negative effects on the economy of unemployment. It could be that they consider the gold mining industry to be what's called an infant industry, an industry in need of protection. Could be that they consider the gold industry to be a strategic, an important industry. Right? Could be that it's just political, that they just don't like the other country putting tariffs on them, so they're going, nah, you put tariffs on us, we're going to put tariffs on you. So it could be something called a retaliation, right, where they are trying to get revenge on the other country who might have put a tariff on them. And if you've watched any of the news stories about Donald Trump and the tariffs that they were putting on in America, you will find exactly that. That is what ended up happening, was they were putting tariffs on all sorts of products from different countries, and those countries would then say, well, if you're putting a tariff on us about this, then we'll put a tariff on you for this product, right? And that does tend to happen. It's the law of reciprocity, right? Or the idea is that you're trying to pay them back. Right? They have wronged you, so you are attempting to pay them back. Well done. And again, that's worth 4 marks. You get 2 marks per reason that are explained in relation to the idea of the tariff on gold. And as long as you do that, you should get those 4 marks. So out of this question, there's 2 marks there, there's 4 marks, that's 6 marks already. All right. Now it's the next one that you need practice on. Those two, these first 2, this A and B, you can do in your sleep now because you're rock stars. The next bit, however, you need a bit more practice on. These are worth 8 marks. Not everyone will be worth 8 marks, but a number will be. And they are discuss whether or not. Now, we've had some fun and games with discuss whether or not questions in the past. So discuss whether or not an economy should mine and sell, and here's the key part, all of its gold. But the key phrase is now. All right. So you're not saving anything for the future. You're not thinking about what's called sustainability, right, or any of those sorts of ideas. You're just saying we're going to mine it, we're going to sell it now. Now it's whether or not. So you need to discuss for and against. So reasons why selling all of their gold now would be a good thing. What would be a good thing? So just call out to me. Just tell me now. What will be of benefit to the economy if they sell a whole lot of gold now? What will they get?
They get the money faster.
Yeah, right? The very first thing that you're more than likely to discuss would be the revenue that they would receive from the sale of the gold. And it will be potentially a lot, okay, if you haven't seen the price of gold, my word, right? And that's per ounce. So if they were to mine all of their gold and sell it all, right, it could be a fair bit of money, a fair bit of revenue for the government. So they do that, and then the flow-on effects of earning all of that income are what? What happens then? Everybody in the country's got a whole lot of income, so what happens?
Inflation.
Maybe inflation, but before inflation, what do they do with the money?
Are they spending?
Yeah. So consumption expenditure, jobs, employment, more income, more jobs, more income. Yeah? Standards of living, those sorts of ideas. Bring all of it together, everything that you're learning. These are the opportunities for you just to throw everything into your answer. Everything that you've learned in economics, just put it in there. All right? Then you've got the not, which is the disadvantage to doing that. Okay. Isaac's having internet issues. All right? The reason why this wouldn't be a good idea, and I hinted at that when I talked about it's not being sustainable, right? Because gold, remember we talked about gold, we didn't talk about gold as such, but we talked about other resources that were considered to be non-renewable, okay? And if you're selling all of your gold, then it's all going. So one of those knots might be about the issue of sustainability. There's probably a few others. You mentioned inflation. There could be something along those sorts of lines. But the point is you need to have full and complete sentences. You need to discuss what you're thinking. You need to relate it back to mining, right, and to the economy. Did it say what the economy actually was? A number of countries include India impose a tariff. It might actually be India, the country. It doesn't really say, but in case. And you need to talk about macroeconomic concepts, employment, inflation, growth, right? All of those, inequality, all of those key concepts, bring them in, right? And see if you can fire them in there. It's worth 8 marks, so you're pretty much looking at 4 and 4, although usually it's like 5 and then up to 5, right? There's that sort of an approach with the mark scheme. Now, I am not going to give you the answer to that, because what's going to happen very soon in the classwork, that's year 13, so that's not you. That's a mistake I did before. This is you. What's going to happen very soon, if it hasn't already, I apologise, but what's going to happen is that this practice exam question should arrive. It's going to arrive now, apparently. Which it hasn't, but it will. All right? It is the same question we've been answering, okay? But now what I'm wanting you to do, not that one. There we go, yeah. What I'm wanting you to do is to answer this one, D. That's all, just D. I want you to put time and effort into your answer. I don't want you to do Ask Dr. Google. I don't want to know what Dr. Google knows. I want to know what you know. And I want to see how you write, right? Because we're down at the point now where your written ability, your ability to express your ideas is really important. So if we're struggling with that now, then we need to put some serious measures in place in order to help you get the help that you need in order to write a sentence, for example. Right? So if with this one, this is why these ones are quite useful, because they're identified, they're state, then it's explained so you can see the extension needed in the answer, and then this one is as said, you go full noise. You write as much as you can, you link it all to economics, you link it all to the sale of gold, the mining and selling of gold, and you will just talk about macroeconomic phenomenon and on, right? In and through it. Reasons for, reasons against. Now this answer, you could easily write up to a page. Okay? Easily. Because you're talking about, all those macroeconomic concepts, for and against. Now, that's what I want you to do. Now, I've set you the task to do that. Hopefully it will arrive. Stop meeting. Are there any particular questions that you have at this point, other than, what's the answer to that? Yeah. I want you to have practice, yeah? Yes, sanctions against other countries, absolutely. All right, okay. Now, I've set you that as a task to have a go at, to submit. Do have a go. I've actually given you, I think, a week to do it, in case you've got other work and stuff that you need to do as well, and that's absolutely fine. Do also today make sure that you have a break from the screen, that you actually get outside, you get some fresh air, you go for a bit of a walk, something. Because it's going to be, quite important to keep yourself mentally moving forward. We've still got a few weeks before half term, a couple of weeks before half term, and then half term break, and then we finish the term after that. All right? Yes, Tracy.
Wait, so we just do the last part, like the last question?
The 8-mark question is all I want. All right? I wanted to work through the other two with you and just to give you some helpful tips about the 8-mark question, right, so that you can see how to structure it or to see what it is that I'm sort of wanting from you. But otherwise, it's you. It's your practice time at that. Once you submit it, then I will go through it and see how you went and give you a mark out of 8. Give you a couple of pointers, perhaps, if need be. But I'm thinking, just seeing what you're doing already, you should be aiming for at least 6 out of 8, if not higher. I think that there's a very strong chance that a fair number of you could easily get 8 out of 8 for that particular question. And that should give you a whole lot of confidence moving forward, because that's what the 8-mark questions tend to be like. They're whether or not. And this is a very good macroeconomic whether or not, and it's connections to international trade, although not entirely. All right, any other questions? No? Okay, well, as we say in the land of my birth, hei kōne rā, review the work we've done, work on that practice exam question. That's your task for either today or before next week. Otherwise, have a fantastic day.
Thank you, Mr. David. Have a nice day.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
See you. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
See you. You alright, dude? Right. And Paul.